Trump is back in the White House and I'm back trying to figure out how to use Zwift. It's like 2020 never ended.
China.
I've even got my rubber gloves and mask just in case. I'm kidding. It's up here for date night. This is the Zwift ride. Coming up, my review of the bike and my first go at a Zwift race in a year. If you've not got time to stick around, this is excellent. My ride wasn't. Brief history on what I had before this. In March of 2020, I bought a Wahoo kicker bike. I knew nothing about cycling other than that it was an easy way to do my paper round when I was 11. So I just went for the coolest, most high-tech gadget I could find, and I loved it. All 3,000 pounds of it. And then I discovered Zwift, and the rest, as they say, is history. During 2021 and 2022, I was on Zwift all the time and it got me into the best shape of my life. Then in 2023, I got distracted by competing in PE lessons for adults and my cycling ground to a halt. I then took 2024 off from exercise in a cleverly strategic move in order to eat large amounts of food and thus appear more relatable to anybody watching at the start of their own fitness journey. Also, just to eat large amounts of food. And here we are, 2025. I'm ready to get back to what I love doing, racing on Zwift and being above average fitness. And I have an amazing space inside a crazy old stone barn that is going to be real soon my dream home gym. And the centerpiece in the cardio zone there is going to be 2 of these Zwift rides given to me by Zwift for the new gym. So if I do nothing but praise them throughout this video, please feel free to take my comments with a pinch of salt. Right, let's start with the fact moving these is a hassle. Now, if you don't need to move it, it's irrelevant, and once it's set up in my gym, they'll be going nowhere. But compared to the kicker bike that just tipped up onto some little wheels, this is a pig to slide out of the way if you're going to use it in a space where it needs to come in and out. You can't pick up this end because then this bit would hang on the floor at a weird angle. You can't pick up that on its own because what do you do about this bit? It's awkward to shift. Ultimately, you'd probably decide that it's easier to just take it apart. Anyone that says they can move one of these easily is probably a serial killer. But once you have it where you want it, I like it. And the comparison to the kicker bike is a good one because I've been asked a lot, why have these at all? My kicker bike is better. It's certainly more expensive, over £3,000 versus just over 1,000. But at which point I should say this isn't a tech review. There are channels that do that far better than me. I didn't even read the manual. And I doubt DC Rainmaker has ever installed the handlebars backwards on his own bike. But what I lack in geeky knowledge, I make up for in understanding what gets the average person off their sofa. And it's not the frequency at which this thing's transponder is fluctuating at, it's just how pleasurable is it to own it. And there it ticks all the boxes. It looks cool, it's minimalist and sleek. It's not like the Watt bike that looks like you've stole it from your gym spin class, or the kicker bike, which looks like it was made by those people that do the robot dogs. In the age of the iPhone, it works whether it's in your home gym or the corner of your apartment. And thinking that your setup looks cool means you're 10 times more likely to use it. And talking of iPhones, the journey from box to built with this is pretty seamless. If I had read the manual, I'd have put both of them together in about 10 minutes. And now that I know what I'm doing with it, I can adjust all the important things on it very simply. It's got a little hex key that lives under here. Here it is. And this adjusts 99% of the things you'd need to adjust on it. It makes the kicker bike and its appalling quick release setup look very silly indeed. So what's it like to ride? I'll tell you as you watch yesterday's race. 8 minutes, 40 seconds to go, and I think I'm ready. I've just Googled how to use the buttons to do power-ups, so I'm good on that front. Now don't be fooled, this is a level of preparation for me which is almost unheard of. Now some details here. The bike, like any bike to be honest, comes with rubbish pedals and a bog standard saddle. My road pedals are still on my kicker bike, which is not here, it's in storage following the house move still. So I took my gravel pedals off my gravel bike and stuck those on here. My gravel shoes are fine though, I've literally cycled across the country wearing them. As for the saddle, it's a short race, so I didn't bother switching it. Longer term, obviously I will do, although this one was perfectly fine for the ride that I did. I was also using my Garmin to broadcast my heart rate because my chest strap was still in a cardboard box somewhere in my barn. I didn't want to go to the barn and get it after dark. I've watched Dog Soldiers too many times. On the technical side, the Zwift app was running on my MacBook. When it's all set up in the gym, I'll be back to using my specific Zwift PC running a big TV screen. And the kicker core on here and the Zwift handlebars and my Garmin all hooked up to the computer seamlessly as you would hope. So this is a 6.5 kilometer sprint that I've done many times before. It's the type of race that made me fall in love with using Zwift in the first place. It's something I can just jump into of an evening, get a short intense workout done, half-hour total time on the bike, and still have a bit of my evening left. Obviously, I also enjoy doing longer sessions and doing longer races, but this is my favourite type. Another reason for doing it last night was that it's been so long since I used Zwift, I no longer have the app giving me an approved category, and a lot of races require that for you to enter them. So 30 seconds to go, and I'm as ready as I can be. Oh, fan! Turn the bloody fan on. Almost as ready as I can be. Oh, now I'm cold. Oh, 20 seconds. Okay. We're off. And typical Zwift, even in a category C race, still need 500 watts to just stay with the lead group off the line. That aside, the first 90 seconds feels very much like I remember Zwift being, a lot of fun, and I'm mixing it with the leaders. The bike feels like a bike without looking down. To be honest, I wouldn't be able to tell what I was riding. Now on my kicker bike in the past, I'd used a rocker plate, so I had a lot more movement going on than I'm feeling here. But obviously, there's no reason why I couldn't put this on a rocker plate too. I suppose the only reason I wouldn't is that after the initial fun of using the rocker plate, I'm not really convinced that it added to my experience massively. In fact, it's a bit like the kicker bike's ability to tilt up and down, mimicking climbs. When I bought the thing, I assumed that that was a feature that would be incredibly immersive and allow myself to feel like I was in the virtual world. And it was. For about a week, I got really bored with it and never bothered using it. It's not really a feature I think I'm going to miss here. There are plenty of other indications while riding to remind you whether you're going up or downhill. Oh, legs are burning. And talking of things going downhill, historically, my legs would not be burning after 90 seconds. Here is where I realised that taking a year off may have resulted in some reduction in cycling fitness. Get back, get back. And at 2 minutes 20, here is my first problem with the bike. You can see the gear I'm in, and as I realise that I'm losing the leaders, I change up. But because I don't feel an immediate switch in resistance, I end up changing up a few gears too many and I have to come back down again. Now on my kicker bike, the gear change button would produce almost an instantaneous shift in resistance, which is something I'd gotten used to. I spent the first 3/4 of this race constantly overshooting the changes up or down because I wasn't getting that instant response and having to backtrack. Actually changing the gears through the buttons mounted on the bars, in fact using all the buttons mounted on the bars, of which there are plenty, worked incredibly well. I loved it. It just wasn't giving me that instant response I was used to. Ah. And at 3 minutes 30, I give up trying to stay with the leaders, and my suspicion is some of them may not have been C category riders anyway, and just in this race to beat me. Knowing that the lack of riding in a group now means it's impossible for me to avoid the following riders catching me, I slow down and allow them to do so I can then stick with them. Something I've always done on Zwift is adjust my goals as the race develops. At this point, my new target is to not get beat by any of the riders in this new group. And just pedaling along like this, staying in the pack, it now gives me a chance to focus on using the bike's gears properly. Instead of shifting and then shifting again when I didn't get an immediate change of resistance, I started to allow for the delay and actually found the change felt quite natural. It's a bit like shifting gears on an older mechanical bike rather than an electronic group set one. At the start of the race, it felt like that would be something that would remain an annoyance to me, but by this stage, I'd adapted to it and was giving it no more thought. Basically, in the past, if I stood up to pedal, I'd shift as I did so. Now I just shift and then stand up and it feels perfect. So as we approach 1 kilometre to go, let's talk sprint finish tactics. In the past, my plan would have been to sprint finish and crush anybody in sight. I thought a new plan might be needed here, and I had a cunning one. You see, this race had a lot more riders in it than it normally would because I'd mentioned I would be doing it on Instagram the day before. Consequently, my giant ego told me that it was quite possible the riders around me here were sticking close to me in order that they could sprint alongside me. A bit like the little kids chasing after Rocky for a chance to be near their hero, if only for a moment. So I thought I'd use that against them. This little ghost icon means that I have an invisibility power-up available. Using it will, for a few seconds, make my rider invisible to the other 3 riders beside me. So while they're busy texting their mates to say, yes, I'm serious, I'm racing the actual Mark Lewis, I can whiz off and win. And so with 400 metres to go, 100 metres sooner than I would normally sprint, I unleash the power-up, conveniently from the Zwift handlebars that let you control just about anything on the screen and drop some serious watts. And at first it looked like it would work. And then a problem. My sprint finishes used to benefit from legs that could drop 1200 watts quite easily. Here, I peaked at half of that, and so by the time my invisibility cloak wore off, I was only about 2 meters ahead of them and dying. So 2 of them caught me easily, and a third, who's probably never heard of me, just ignored it all. Ah! Come on! Across the line, 30th at a 47 with an average wattage of 266. December 21, I came 5th in a B category race at this event with an average wattage of almost 400. So I've got some work to do. Back to the bike. It worked as I wanted it to. I pedalled and my little man moved forwards in Zwift. Once I sorted out the gear change, it was all good. The only thing I would adjust is to tip these bars back a little bit because I felt that my hands were just sliding down the hoods very slightly. And obviously stick my proper pedals and saddle on it. Something that I had worried about was its stability when I was sprinting. I'm 220 pounds and 6'6", so my centre of gravity, especially when I'm stood up riding, it's not where a normal human being's would be. I was worried the thing might tip from side to side, but it didn't. It was rock solid, no problems at all. I can't wait to get it into the gym proper and side by side. I can then do some riding with Jen. The Wahoo kicker bike is going out of storage, and to Jen's uncle who wants to set up in his garage, it will not be coming to the new gym. And anyone saying, but Mark, it's a more accurate trainer. Yes, maybe by 1 or 2%. I'm currently averaging 140 watts less per race than I was a couple of years ago. My performance issues on Zwift are not ones where 1.5% discrepancy in Smart Trainer is my primary concern right now. But no, in summary, I am very happy, and I would use this analogy. The Zwift ride is like travelling business class. It's not the first class option that a Wahoo kicker bike is, but neither is it the economy option of a cheap trainer with your filthy road bike slapped on it, dropping mud all over your living room. However, Zwift is the holiday destination, and once you are in that place, how you got there It's not that important. Anybody mid-race giving thought to the additional features of the chosen bike underneath them, it's a bit like having a tropical beach in front of you and then getting excited about what animal shape the maid turned your towel into while you were gone. When I went downstairs after the race, Jen said to me, "Did you win?" She didn't say, "How was the bike?" because it's really just not the most important part of the experience. Obviously, rather than tell her if I won or not, I told her about the bike instead. So, coming up, more races, some more out to Zwift at some stage, and the details of how I'm going to get all this set up in the barn with the TVs, the PC running it, the motivational wall art, the lot. It really is like 2020 all over again. It makes you want to go out and buy a badly socialised lockdown puppy from an unregistered breeder I found on Facebook just for an excuse to leave the house more often. Those were the days. Well, I wasn't last. And that'll have to do.